$60 trillion is about to be able to invest into the crypto market. What could some of this money do to the price of XRP? Could we send into the 3 to 4 digits? The answer is absolutely yes. I also want to show you some information here. We have the founder and CEO of eToro mentioning XRP. We also have some new information coming out of SALT talking about atomic settlement, and blockchain is the future of the next financial system. There's a lot of really good information here. We also have some Ripple and XRP stuff we're going to throw in here. We're going to talk about the Clarity Act. We are going to talk about Ripple solving problems at scale and what this could mean for XRP holders. Let's start here. Digital Asset Investor posted this, or XRP's price.
There are 60 trillion worth of assets globally in retirement accounts with zero allocation right now to digital assets. Every 1% allocation from that 60 trillion adds $30,000 to Bitcoin's price. And so from my perspective, a 2% allocation would be conservative when you consider that all of those assets are currently in a monetary framework whose authorities have told you they want to depreciate it by 2% a year. So why wouldn't those accounts stake 2% of everything denominated in melting ice cube and stick it in another protocol altogether? So again, that alone would take us to Bitcoin at 175K, or up more than 50% from here. We still think we are incredibly early. We're still seeing early signs of institutional adoption. You look at Georgis, the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, almost 2 trillion in assets, has been increasing its exposure to Bitcoin digital assets. It's still a rounding error for them. But when the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, the world's largest endowment in Harvard is now buying Bitcoin, starts to do it, that opens up the door for all the other relevant parties, other endowments, other sovereign wealth funds to do this in a very interesting way. So there are 60.
Answer me this question. As Bitcoin miners gobble up and swallow more and more of the infrastructure for Bitcoin, you have two companies now that hold over 51% of the mining power. What happens if those companies were to merge into one mega company, and that mega company could control what transactions get approved and don't get approved on the Bitcoin blockchain? What could that company do with all of that power? And would Bitcoin be safe in that situation? What is stopping a country like China from developing 51% of all of the miners in the world? They could spend hundreds of billions of dollars into creating a mega factory or a bunch of mega factories that could take over this. Let me just go ahead and show you some of this information here. 1% of $60 trillion is 600 billion. Directly into XRP, what could this do? This could, if it's a 1-to-1, where $600 billion is just going to XRP, that could change the price $12.96. But we know on fresh inflows, buying fresh XRP off the open market, that has a multiplier effect because there's not enough liquidity to go 1-for-1. So if we're looking at a 25x, a 50x, or a 100x, we could be talking about a 255 XRP, a $500 XRP, or a $1,000 XRP. 600 billion and a 100x multiplier is a $60 trillion market cap for XRP. I also wanted to take a look at what happened if 2, 3, or 5% of 60 trillion goes into XRP. Obviously, this is like fairy tale and like, buying a lottery ticket and every number you're hitting, right? This is like if the moon and the sun and the earth and the rest of the universe all lined up perfectly and we can see into the future. This is kind of what you'd be looking at for price wise. I'm not going to go through all this. If you want to just look at the screen, here's 2%, 3%, 5%. This is the flat rate. This is a 25, 50x, and 100x multiplier. I know this looks pretty juicy. Here is the eToro CEO mentioning XRP. Let's get it.
And then, first crypto rally until we started trading for clients. So clients started trading Bitcoin on eToro in 2013. For 4 years, everybody, my board, management, they were like, Yoni, you were going all in this Bitcoin. Nothing really happened. We were like wasting so much resources in it. And then 2017 came. By the end of 2017, 95% of our clients were trading Bitcoin and XRP and ETH. We listed ETH when it was about $4. So I've always been a big fan and still am of Bitcoin and of blockchain, tokenization, digital assets. And I have no doubt that we are still very early stages. It's going to continue.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that, let's talk about Bitcoin, then we talk about the kind of rest of the market. But with Bitcoin specifically, why do you think?
All right, we're not going to get into that. There's only 5 more seconds left in the clip. If you see what I'm doing here with my waving and stuff like that, I'm communicating with my dog. We were having a standoff here. You couldn't see her. She's off camera, but she didn't know if she wanted to come into the room or go out. She didn't know if I was staying at the desk. And so she was teeter-tottering. And anyways, all right. Franklin Templeton CEO. We just had her. She was being interviewed, I believe, by Bloomberg or one of these pretty big networks. and she was talking about the future of tokenization and financial markets and how banks are going to be adopting digital assets because that is the new infrastructure. And so it's just really interesting to see her, she was saying that also that not all cryptos are created equally. And the reason I thought that was interesting is because Franklin Templeton has filed for a Bitcoin ETF, a Ethereum ETF, a Solana ETF, and an XRP ETF. So there, the CEO is saying that not all cryptos are created equally, only invest into the ones that, have some real utility here, use case. And at the end of the day, you look at what Franklin Templeton is doing, those are the 4 assets they are most bullish on. So I do think, man, sky's the limit here. We are going to the freaking moon. Obviously, we don't know how long this is all going to take, but like if you can just zoom out and see where we are and see where we're going, like this is the reason I'm always so happy. And I'm walking around, I'm singing a song, I'm doing a weird dance. I'm happy because we've been right on a lot of this stuff. Let me play it.
Bitcoin, which to me is like a religion at this point, right? You can argue whether it's real or not, it doesn't matter. And I have come to the conclusion that because it's a great fear currency. And when I say that, if you're from the US, you don't really think about this, but you travel internationally. And I remember talking to somebody from Israel who said, my parents and grandparents had their money taken away by the government. They will always keep a percentage of their savings in Bitcoin. And they're not going to put it into Bitcoin ETF because the government can reach that, but they'll keep keys for their Bitcoin. And then talking to in Bitcoin. So that in my mind gave me like comfort around this floor. But the point on the blockchain was it is from a technical standpoint, and I ran technology for a while, it just as a program, as a programming language, it does really important things, right? And these are things in financial services that are going to be significant. Anybody who's run a financial services company, we spend a ton of money reconciling data between systems. Boom, that goes away, right? There's this batch process. All these products and back office are, because we're sitting there's a bunch of mainframes. I'm pretty sure every major bank out there is still running a mainframe, and you batch process. And so why does New York Stock Exchange close at 4:00? It closes so everybody can reconcile. What Bitcoin does is you have atomic settlement. So you're going to settle immediately.
Okay, what I want you to, she's explaining the benefits of blockchain, right? She says Bitcoin, but really what she's talking about is other crypto assets. But she's not going to sit up here and say XRP or Stellar or Chainlink. She is going to go with what everybody understands at home, which is Bitcoin, right? So please understand, as she's going through this, just think to yourself, right? Can Bitcoin be used in any of the stuff she's describing? The answer is no. It cannot. No AML, no KYC. Banks are not using Bitcoin to do anything. They're not tokenizing. They're not creating stable coins. They're not doing any of that. So just to be clear, let's just, let me back it up a few seconds here because I interrupted. I do apologize, but she's going to break this down for you. It's really important that we listen, and I'll stop it afterwards and we'll go through it.
New York Stock Exchange closes at 4:00. It closes so everybody can reconcile. What Bitcoin does is you have atomic settlement. So you're going to settle immediately. And then the final piece is you don't have to worry about who the counterparty is on the other side. When we do an FX contract, we'll use a major bank because we don't want to worry about whether we're going to get paid for with that counterparty. But if you have it in blockchain, one, because the token can prove ownership. Two, you can get paid immediately. So you have atomic settlement. And three, the smart contract can execute it without people interfering. You actually don't need that intermediary. So that drives down costs. It's more secure. And I was talking to Anthony this morning. He said, well, what about quantum computing? Remember, when you worry about quantum computing, you're also going to have quantum security to offset it. So I feel like that will evolve with it. You have transparency. Regulators are going to love it. For all that they're afraid today, they have tremendous amount of transparency, more than they ever. And you add AI to that, and it's going to be a great way. They're going to fall in love with it. Efficiencies like atomic settlement. And then finally, operational cost efficiencies. Like in the asset management business, there's only one way fees are going, and that's down. So we have to constantly evolve to be more efficient. And so it's going to open up, it's going to have cost savings, and it's going to open up a bunch of investment ideas and opportunities that people haven't been able to use today because of the technology.
You see why she's the CEO of Franklin Templeton, right? This lady is smart as a whip, man. Wow. So what I find interesting here is she's basically describing the next financial system, right? Lowering fees, all on blockchain, audibility, right? AI mixed with blockchain. It's a regulator's wet dream. They can see if there's any shenanigans happening, right? The IRS and the SEC can run validators on whatever blockchain they're doing, the XRP ledger, right? They have them. They know. They can see the transactions. They can verify in real time what is what and what is not, and who might be messing and fudging the system. And this is going to allow cleaner. Listen, if you go back in history, there has been thousands of cases of some type of financial institution or bank or somebody working in that financial institution or bank doing something fraudulent or shady because of greed, because of money, because of whatever it is that they're doing. History is littered with this stuff. Blockchain is going to help make sure a lot of that stuff doesn't happen going forward. And think about how many people won't be hurt by financial fraud or scams or these types of things in the future. This is very important time in life. And what we're doing when we buy an XRP or an XLM or an XDC or a Chainlink, we are owning a piece of what that future financial system is going to look like. We know that these banks are now interested in public blockchains. We understand there's a private bit to it, right? And some customers are going to need to have privacy, and that's totally fine, right? We can do the best of both worlds here. All right. Senator Cynthia Lummis says we will have the crypto market structure bill on Trump's desk by the end of 2025. This was the end of September. Now it is the end of 2025.
We go back to work in the Senate on September 3rd. We are working market structure with the goal of having it out of the Senate Banking Committee by the end of September. And then the Ag Committee, the Senate Ag Committee, hopefully will work their part of it, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission part of market structure, through the month of October. And we will have market structure to the president's desk before the end of the year. I hope it's before Thanksgiving.
So it was September, now maybe hopefully before Thanksgiving or at the end of the year. This could definitely be pushed into 2026 if people don't sit down and work out both sides of this, right? You are going to need bipartisan support here, which I think is a good thing. You never want to have one side making up all the rules. You need to have both sides voting yes on it, because that way everyone will get behind it. And that's what we're going to need. We saw that with the Genius Act. We will see it with the Clarity Act and the infrastructure here. So what happens if the Clarity Act is passed, let's say tomorrow? Like, what is the timeline? How long the implementation, all of this stuff? I wanted to better understand this after listening to that clip, and here is that research. Implementation timeline: after passing both chambers of Congress and being signed by both president and regulatory agencies, the SEC and the CFTC, would be required to adopt implementing regulations. Experts expect these agencies, to move quickly to set up new rules, but in practice, federal legislation often has prescribed timelines, most likely ranging from a few months to a year for the full rulemaking and enforcement to begin, depending on how fast agencies will act. So if agencies are prepared, they could do this a lot more quickly. But if agencies wait until this is all signed into law, then it could take some time. It talks about market sentiment, the removal of legal uncertainty over which regulator oversees which crypto class or asset would likely catalyze positive market sentiment and price rallies, especially among assets previously at risk of being securities under SEC scrutiny. Registration and compliance: crypto companies would know exactly which agency to register with, proving predictability. Platforms focus on spot commodities and register with the CFTC, and offering investment contracts fall under the SEC. Business adaptation: existing companies, especially those currently tangled up with uncertain and overlapping U.S. regulation, could recognize the launch of new products and with more confidence. It talks about strategic restructuring, DeFi carve-outs, and regulatory clarity. So it's going to take a little bit of time. I did see this. Ripple becomes a founding member of TRM Labs Beacon Network. And I was like, what is Beacon Network? And so this is just, Beacon Network is described as the first real-time crypto crime response system. That's interesting. Uniting the crypto industry and law enforcement to combat illicit activity. I think this is something that we should be spending more time and money on, right? How many people get scammed every single day in the crypto market? I'm sick of it. I kind of was railing on this in my live stream yesterday. I'm so tired of people saying, hey, Sensei, somebody pretending to be you contacted me and, I sent money to some platform and I can't get it off. Like, this happens on X, Discord, YouTube, Telegram, it's everywhere, makes me sick. Something needs to be done about it. It looks like Ripple is trying to do something about it. Remember, how many times have you seen a fake Brad Garlinghouse, an AI Brad Garlinghouse on YouTube or whatever, with the, sometimes they're like a real, it's like a video from a real kind of summit, but the voiceover is different, talking about some type of, give us some XRP and we'll send you back 2x. No one is ever going to give you anything free in the crypto market. Assume everybody that is trying to talk to you randomly is a scammer. Never respond to these emails asking for seed phrases. Please keep yourself safe. So it looks like this is going to, direct industry leadership. Ripple's position as a founding member highlights its commitment to proactive compliance, transparency, and long-term legitimacy of the crypto industry, solves regulatory concerns. Regulators and lawmakers have regularly criticized crypto for its role in enabling illicit finance. By joining the Beacon Network, Ripple demonstrates a solution-oriented approach, helping to address objections and global regulators and building trust for potential future integrations and partnerships. Protects the XRP ecosystem. Any crypto involved in large payment networks is a potential target in crime. Ripple's involvement helps secure its own ecosystem, thereby safeguarding its reputation and utility in XRP real-world payments. There's also, we're 16 minutes here, guys. I'll try to include the link below for this video if you want to watch it. It's an older video, so no worries there. But I hope you enjoy the video, guys. If you did, you can hit like. You can leave a comment down below. Have a truly fantastic weekend coming up. It's always an honor to spend this time with you. Thank you so much. Aloha. I have just built a course for beginners, intermediaries, and experts of XRP to better understand the XRP ledger and Ripple, the company. If you're interested in getting that course absolutely free, there's a link down in the description. Please let me know what you think after you've taken the course. Aloha.